Guys, I am beyond excited for our guest today for our Falcon and the Winter Soldier recap of episode 3. He is one third of one of my favorite podcasts. I feel I can talk to him about anything, as evidenced by our conversation today, which I just hit record and we've already been on Zoom for like hours. We can talk about family. We can talk about Invincible, the Snyder Cut, Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, this man's brain is a treasure chest of comic information. Please welcome Miguel from Legion on Zoom.
Yo, hello everybody. I am extremely excited to be here. And exactly as you said, we just did a few hours of our with the full guys, the whole Legion on Zoom on board. And now, I'm happy to stay on to continue our conversation, but now a deep dive on the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, we talked about AVX, and that episode is going to be coming in the coming weeks. And then we hit pause, and then we started talking for like 30 minutes about life, and now we just hit record again. Miguel, how are you doing? Like, how's everything for you?
I'm doing, okay. I'm all right. I've been, the pandemic hits everybody, it's just a fucking year of this, which is insane, but I've actually really loved, as we mentioned in the previous recording, right? The pandemic kind of what drove us to do the podcast. And we've been enjoying that journey, that creative adventure. And then that led to, meeting awesome people like you, and establishing, what I'm hoping will be a long lasting friendship. You've been on our show. Now we're on your show, and that's just been honestly one of the biggest silver linings of this experience. And so, it's okay. This is a fine way to spend one's weekend,
I remember I was on Apple Podcasts and I typed in comic book podcast, and you guys came up. First of all, I love the name Legion on Zoom.
Thank you.
I love it. And then when I was listening to the episode, I was like, I want to get in on this conversation. And this is before we probably even had a podcast starting. And when I found you guys on Instagram and we started chatting, I mean, you guys are so cool. I love hearing you guys talk and all your deep dives and everything.
Thank you. Yeah, the goal of our podcast is just us, hanging out, talking shit about comic books and laughing. I think it's just mostly we just want to laugh. We want to go deep into stuff, but we just want to make each other laugh. And so if people want to join in and join in the fun and just get a good laugh and also be fine to disagree with us, and just we love that stuff, argue amongst each other. So it's great to hear you that you've enjoyed it and you've joined us quite well. Immediately we engage in conversation with you, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, you guys are easy to talk to. And I think, I've said this about Power of X-Men. It's a reaction to the vitriolic, very toxic, like nerds who are gatekeepers. And like, I'm a huge nerd, but I don't know everything. And like, I'm okay with being wrong. I'm okay with arguing with someone. Like, just because I'm right that Jean Grey is the God Queen of the X-Men universe doesn't mean you have to think that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fandom.
Right,
and I
exactly.
love spreading that joy and that passion. And I'm sure you get this too. You have listeners, you have members of the community from all walks of fandom. You have seasoned, and then you have people who just started picking up the books or just watched a movie. I mean, you guys are a little bit more general than Power of X-Men, but why would you want to exclude anyone?
No, exactly. And that's kind of what was our goal at first, to be general. Because like, I think as you've seen, among the three of us, Rod is heavy DC. I'm the heavy Marvel guy. And then Ches is actually more DC as well. But then we have a lot of things in between, and then Image and all that. And then obviously then the all the media in terms of movies and films, that's what's kind of, and TV shows is what's brought us together. Because then that's from all over the place. And we love just to talk about all of that. And we've had listeners that start to, checking out our show who are casual, right? Who just, I like the Avengers movie. That's why I'm watching and listening to you guys or something. And they want us to maybe sometimes explain things a little bit more, right? Because we forget that, right, people won't immediately know what we're talking. We're thinking we're talking to people that go to Comic-Con exclusively, Yeah. But it's like, no, we want to open it up to anybody, right? Because that's the joy of comics. It's like, it's for everybody.
That was one of the most eye-opening experiences for me, especially in the last couple weeks, where there have been people I've been DMing with, and they've been like, actually, I'm a new comic book reader. I've only started with Hickman in our case. Or they'll just say something like, oh, I haven't read some of the recent stuff. I'm just, diving into like the Australian X-Men.
Well,
And I always thought like you guys, I'm talking to people who are just diehards, but no, that's just like a sliver of the people who want to engage. The majority are people who are, I would say, new to casual fans who just want to know more.
yes.
So yeah, the message boards and stuff like that, like people are dicks on there. And that's why like hearing you guys, it's like, I felt like I think we're all the same age, but I felt like the little brother who wants to like join the conversation and be like, wait, guys, like, so that's why I slid into your DMs. So thank
Awesome.
you
And
for responding.
we appreciate that. No, we've loved your messages and everything. And because I think that's obviously like what you're saying is because I think those are the two joys that we discovered about this. One is like, it's great to discuss these things in detail and also help hopefully provide an example of like you can disagree, because like Chaz and Rod, the other Legion on Zoom, they're my brothers, and like brothers we will fight, we will disagree, but it's not hateful, and it's all good fun, and that's what we want. And then also the best thing is finding these new people and then to share the love of that, right? Like you're saying, like a young brother, little sister that's just falling into comics, and then to be like, oh, follow this way, read these books first, and because it's awesome to share that love.
No, it truly is. And that has been the biggest joy of doing Power of X-Men is talking to people who are just new and they just love the comics and that's it. Like there's none of that hate or any of that like, really deep fighting. And it's been such a great scenario. Sorry. Have you seen the new Black Widow trailer?
I have, and it's thanks to you. Son of a bitch, because like I was surprised. I woke up in the morning, I go on my Instagram and I see that you already shared it. I'm like, you stay in your lane, sir. It's X-Men, okay? I'm like, we share the non-X-Men stuff. So I was like, I immediately messaged the guys. I'm like, there's a new Black Widow trailer. Like what? And then so now I saw it, and I'm like, thanks to you. Now I've seen it, and I was blown away by it.
This is me 24 hours. I was just like on my phone like that. So I am particularly invested in the MCU because I think the X-Men are coming. The mutants are coming.
Of course.
And I want to be there wherever. And as we'll discuss with Falcon and the Winter Soldier today, there is a huge X-Men reference. And
Lord.
Yeah, and that's because of the Fox rights finally going back to Marvel. But so are you excited for Black Widow?
Yeah, no, I have. I've been excited since the beginning. Even when they started saying they were going to make a movie of Black Widow, I was all about it because I trust Kevin Feige. I trust what they do. And after the first trailer, I was blown away. And this new trailer, I loved it. If anything, it makes me just, especially with this trailer that they showed us, reminding us of how Boshi dies, right? And spoiler alert, right? In Endgame, where I'm just bummed that we won't get more Black Widow afterwards. Because honestly, with the past trailer and this trailer, it makes me feel like she could be like the James Bond or Bourne Identity of the MCU.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I thought about that with Endgame too. She could be the leader of a new Avengers team. She could be, as you just said, the Jason Bourne or the 007. Like ScarJo looks great. Obviously if this movie hits, the $1 billion marker, which it most likely won't because of the pandemic, but I think it will get the hype and all that. Hi.
All right, so this is Esteban, and he might pop in every once in a while.
All right, listeners, if you're listening to this on podcast, our Esteban is a cat who just joined the podcast. Yeah, I'm curious to see where they're going to go, if they'll make a trilogy or something like that. I don't think Black Widow, I don't think we can write her off yet. I know she's dead and they've established that, but let's see where they go with it.
No, I agree. I've heard rumors that her sister might take on the mantle for Black Widow, right? So
I know.
I don't know how I feel about that. I need to see her in action to see it, but because come on, ScarJo, like I love her. She's done a great job, and especially because I feel she's done a good job without given the spotlight that much, and had
Mhm.
writers on, involved. We talked about Joss Whedon's Age of Ultron, in the episode with us, and so I'd like to see her get the spotlight more and really show what the Black Widow can do, and then like all this awesome action spy stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and her sister being Florence Pugh, who I never really like. I've heard her name, of course, but I didn't really know who she was or what she was capable of as an actress. Have you seen Midsummer?
Oh, I haven't yet. I've heard many people keep telling me to watch it.
It's an intense movie, but I was like, okay, I understand why Florence Pugh was casted in this role. Like, girlfriend can act, and you know what? I'm here for it. So, if she takes on the mantle of Black Widow, I don't know. I love ScarJo, but I understand that at a certain point, these characters, they're legacy titles, and they're going to be passed down. But as long as the door's open for like Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, oh my god, why am I forgetting his name? Robert Downey Jr. As long as they can come back, like
Mhm.
I'm in some way, shape, or form.
Awesome.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with the trailer. They leaned into the Avengers angle more so than they
Oh
have
yeah.
in
Oh yeah.
other trailers. So let's see where they go with this.
With it.
So Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What were you expecting going in? And you guys were covering WandaVision, so you were knee deep in WandaVision. This
Hmm.
is like a 180 from WandaVision. So
Oh
I'm
my god.
curious,
Yeah.
what was your mindset going from WandaVision to this? And were you getting your clown makeup ready? Your fan theories.
Oh God, no. If anything, that's what I learned from WandaVision, to be like, you know what? Well, you know what? Because also that was the fun thing of WandaVision, the theories. And I think, but I think from the get-go, I wasn't expecting Falcon and Winter Soldier to be that like a speculative, right?
Oh yeah.
If anything, I'll just be like, oh, like who is the power broker, right? Or how is this happen? But nothing really about like, is this Mephisto or not? Right? Like, in what moment are the X-Men going to appear, right? And so, but I was looking forward to it. My expectations were high. But I was just expecting to get entertained, to have a good show with decent plot, nothing that's gonna piss me off. And we've talked about this in our show, Legion on Zoom, where like a lot of the DC films, I think the stories are not the best in the movies, and the acting is sometimes so. And at least MCU, they give you a good story. It's not too cheesy, it's not too dark, and it makes sense, and you don't have to ignore stuff too much, right? To just stay with the story, and that's what I was expecting. And actually, I think I've been getting more than what I was expecting, because I wasn't for it to be, it's a full-on action film.
Yeah, what not only is it an action film, it's a smart action film. Like it's
Yes.
dealing with PTSD, it's dealing with systemic racism.
Hmm.
I think this episode in particular doesn't really go into the themes as heavy as the first two episodes, but I kind of thought I was going to come in and be like, okay, I'm coming off of WandaVision. I have no expectations here. It's going to be like a really good action film. And actually, it's really great.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you mentioned that, exactly, because I that's one thing I've really been enjoying about these Disney Plus shows, right? Because that they're really starting to go into the character and really to show more the psyche of the person, right? And the trauma of the life that they've been living, and not me as a psychologist, as a neuropsychologist, I'm fascinated by that, right? Because WandaVision was about her dealing with grief and her
Mhm.
trauma from that. And then from the first episode of this series, we see Winter Soldier. Like, I love his line when he describes, like, look, I've been doing this for like what, 90 years or something, and like he's like he never had a moment to stop. He just kind of blipped out, right, and then
Yeah.
came back, and then back to a fight, and hasn't really had a moment to stop and even process, like, yo, like, you were almost killed back in the 40s, right? And
Yeah.
then you've been a slave to like Hydra and like all these other agencies for all of your life. He's never had a moment to process that, and I like seeing that he's slowly addressing that stuff in the show, and I hope they look at it more.
Well, and it was so smart too because Bucky is dealing with all of that trauma. And I think there was a line like, oh, but you were in Wakanda. Like, just because you took a time out doesn't mean you fully coped with your trauma. And he's having nightmares about it. And I love that the psychologist, who I am obsessed with, the actress's name is Amy Aquino, I think. I want to say Aquino, but I'm obsessed with her. She's my new Victoria Blade. Like, I want her on this show because I think she handles it so well. And those scenes are really powerful. And I love that they're showing that even a superhero like Bucky needs some therapy.
No, exactly. And then showing on the flip side, right? Then Sam Wilson's, right? Anthony
Mhm.
Mackie's experience as a black man, that even if he's a superhero, a motherfucking Avenger, right?
Yeah.
That he's still not cleared from not experiencing racism, and that we're seeing the systemic racism in with Isaiah Bradley. It's like, God, all right, Disney, all right, Marvel, good,
Like,
good.
you're going there. And I
Mhm.
love how smart they're delivering that theme, because it's not just about like an outward like racist thing. It's literally the bank teller. They're sitting down and he's here like, hey, you're Falcon. Can I take a selfie with you? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do anything with you because so many people are coming back from the dead. And it's like, but this is Falcon. His name is a commodity. You know what I mean? That would be like telling Brad Pitt that you can't get a loan because you have been MIA for 5 years. I don't buy that bullshit at all.
Exactly, exactly.
And then that scene with the cops where they were like, hey, Bucky, is this guy bothering you? They didn't call him Bucky, but to
Oh my God, yeah.
Sebastian Stan, who's white. And then they're like, oh, wait, shit, that's Falcon. Like, oh, we're so sorry, sir. It's so smart the way they've crafted that to show how conniving systemic racism can be and why some people ignore it when it's not ignorable. It's right there in your face.
No, exactly. I'm loving that. I'm loving, and
Sorry.
I'm loving that they're doing it like that. Like, because honestly, I was a little bit worried, especially in that scene when the cops showed up when they were leaving from the second episode. Right, they were
Mhm.
leaving Isaiah Bradley's house, and the cops showed up. I was a little bit worried. I was like, "Ah, you guys are not. I hope you do this correctly. It's not like too obvious or something." And they did it. What I would think. Obviously, I'm not a black man, but at
Yeah.
least a person of color. That although light skin, obviously Latino,
Yeah.
it felt authentic.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And that scene with Isaiah, and I think in the last episode I said Ellie. Is it Ellie or Eli? I think it's Eli.
Eli, yeah.
Eli. I'm just excited for the future of the MCU. I want a flashback with Bucky versus Isaiah, and I
Oh.
want Eli to start assembling the Young Avengers. I'm
Yes,
ready for it.
exactly.
There's
Hmm.
so much being planted here. All right,
Oh, hell
Miguel,
yeah.
you are one of the few straight guests that I have on the show. So I want to ask you a fuck, Mary kill. Are you ready for it? Take a
I
sip
am
of that
ready
beer.
for it.
All right. So we got Sharon Carter, Black Widow, and Peggy Carter.
I don't think that's too hard actually. So I would have to
Really?
go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kill Peggy Carter. I'm sorry.
Oh, Peggy.
She's sweet, but she's Cap's girl. I don't know. I don't.
Respect.
Yeah, no, I don't know. No, I'm not. She doesn't. Not for me. So I would have to immediately. And then between damn Black Widow and Sharon Carter, I think just from what we've seen so far, I think I would go with fuck Sharon Carter,
Mhm.
and marry Black Widow.
Okay, I feel that's respectable. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I think they're all fabulous. I would have had a
yeah.
very, if I had to, if someone pointed a gun to my face and I had to answer this, I would have married Peggy Carter. I would have fucked Black Widow, and then I would have killed Sharon Carter.
Really, Sharon though.
I I think Emily Van Camp is doing a phenomenal job. I This episode took a turn with the character that we'll talk about, and some speculation that I'm sure we're on the same page about. But I don't know. I just feel like I don't. I didn't really trust her. I guess that's a point. I know that's a point, but still. I mean, and then you got ScarJo, which bless ScarJo's heart, But I feel like she would be a chill wife to a closeted gay husband, such as myself, I feel like she would be really cool about it. But I'm sorry, I would be fucking her. I'm marrying Peggy Carter. The answer is still the same there. But
Yeah, it works.
how do you feel Anthony Mackie is doing as Falcon?
I love him. I love him. I think he's wonderful actor, and he's just bringing so much life to Sam Wilson. Honestly, in a way, even better than in the comics, because I've never been a huge Sam Wilson Falcon fan. Like, I've read Captain America, mostly the most modern runs that were, I think, started by Rick Remender. I think from Ed Brubaker, and then kind of moving forward, and then like I read that whole Sam Wilson becoming Captain America run, which was great. And Sam Wilson's cool. Like, he's a cool character. I like him. But Anthony Mackie, though, I am sold. I love him. I'm like, more of him, please.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he has something about him. He just has that like superstar, like I can understand why someone like an agent would be like, yeah, this is a celebrity. This is an actor. Like, that smile of his, man, and like the way he commands the screen. And he also has that vulnerability that Chris Evans brought to Captain America, which I hadn't noticed before until this series.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he believes in the good in people.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a little bit more street smart and smarter, like in general, than Chris Evans, Steve Rogers. Like, God bless his heart too. Like, he's pretty, but sometimes like, shh, don't talk. Exactly. But like, I feel like, like he can, like that scene with the bank teller, he's here like, yeah, Falcon. Like, he knew what he was doing. He was purposely manipulating that. But I think at the core of it, he believed that, good would prevail. Yes, and that's the layers I love with the character.
Love it.
What do you think of Emily Van Camp, as we just touched upon?
I like her. I like her so far. I've enjoyed her in the movies. I think for me, honestly, this episode kind of sold me more on her, on who she can be, and because I think from before I was more like, all right, yeah, cool, Sharon Carter, and I don't know, not kind of like a side character that kind of just helps the plot move. But I think for this episode now, I'm like really interested in her and her life. And I love Emily Van Camp. I think, as an actress, she's doing very well as Sharon Carter. Actually, funny, I heard your episode and I think the one with Warpath Dylan. And I was recently watching this episode with my wife, who she's not a fan of the show, really, actually. But she was immediately, she saw Emily Van Camp. She's like, oh, I saw her in Everwood. And I'm like, I never knew about this show. So you
didn't know about Everwood with Chris Pratt?
Well, once she showed me on her phone, I was like, oh, I remember seeing commercials of this when I was a kid. I never watched it. And then actually until yesterday, I realized like, oh shit, Chris Pratt was in it. I didn't know. I thought Chris Pratt came to the scene in Parks and Rec.
Oh, really? No, he was also, fun fact, he was on the OC season 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I've been following Chris Pratt for a minute. Yeah, no, Warpath Dylan and Madrox also said that they saw Emily in Brothers and Sisters, which was that epic television show starring Sally Field, which I don't know what it was about, but it was on after Desperate Housewives. And then she did Revenge. I didn't watch either, but I have nothing against Emily Van Camp. I like Sharon Carter quite a bit. I don't think I've read enough of her in the comics, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm curious where they're going to take the character. I'm curious what Sharon Carter stands think of her interpretation. I thought she was great in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I forgot she was in Civil War until she mentioned it in this episode. And I think that was like a little meta comment where she was like, fuck all of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I don't know why the actress Emily Van Camp wasn't available for other projects. It's sort of like Darcy from Thor, Dr. Darcy, of course.
Right.
I'm just curious, like, was it a scheduling thing? I understand there's only so many characters you can focus on. And,
And I think that's what was mentioning from the previous movies, because I do feel, I don't know if it's availability. I think it's just the writers before didn't really care much of her as a character, more so than we need her to move the story along. And then that's it, And And so that's why, like, yeah, sure, I liked her, but you could tell that her story wasn't important before in the movies. Really, her story was important as it related to Chris Evans, right? That's what they wanted to show you, and yeah, I would like to know more of her. And I think with the show now, we're really, hopefully, we'll see a lot more of who is Sharon Carter, what's been happening to her before and after, and all that.
Yeah, and something that we brought up before, and I think it's worth mentioning again, is they're making these movies year by year. You know what I mean? Like the plan for Sharon Carter from when they created her to where it is now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's where it's supposed to be. And we can sit here and we can play Monday morning quarterback, but the fact of the matter is stuff happens during production and things change and priorities change and the stories change. So what do you think of Sebastian Stan?
Oh, come on. I love Sebastian Stan. Like he's great. I love him as Winter Soldier. I'm glad that he's getting a show, that he got a show with Sam Wilson, that he can shine, because I think he's a good actor. And he can bring some really good depth to the character, like we were mentioning earlier about like the trauma that he's trying to go heal from, and how he's healing from it, right, with trying to make amends with his past deeds as the Winter Soldier. But at the same time, right, he's still, you can tell, especially with today's episode, the recent episode, is that he does like the fight. He is a super soldier, right? Like, and I love Sebastian Stan. I think kind of juggles well those two sides of, like, he wants to repent, kind of, make heal from his past, but he still wants to kick ass.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the joys of the series has been seeing Sebastian Stan and his chemistry with Anthony Mackie and vice versa. They bounce off of each other so well. And I think Sebastian Stan plays Bucky as someone who truly loves and admires Falcon in the same way that he loved and admired Cap.
Yes.
And I think we saw in the last episode, I think in this episode it's still there, and I'm here for it. I'm really excited for their future, and I think they have an awesome bromance going on.
Yes.
What did you think of Zemo, Daniel Brawl? I can't pronounce his last name, but Daniel Brawl. What did you think of him as Zemo?
I'm with it. I'm liking it. Like, I liked him in I forget, Civil War, right?
Civil War, yeah.
I liked him there. I was honestly just a little bit disappointed that he didn't have the mask and didn't have the look, but that was finally fixed in the last episode. But I like him. I like that they're making him interesting in terms of, like, he's not like a classic villain that he just wants to destroy shit, for the sake of whatever. No, he has a mission. He's getting a little bit more complex, because I think that's one of the issues with the MCU, that most of their villains have been kind of like unidimensional, kind of pretty standard villain, and then they get defeated and then they're done, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think Loki was the best one, and he's like, even as a villain himself, like, like it's up for debate. And then, like, obviously Thanos was a great villain. And I think Zemo, and obviously Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger was obviously an incredible villain. I got angry that they killed him.
I know.
Like, you could have kept using him. I wanted him to be like Loki to Black Panther.
Yeah.
And so I think with Zemo we see that potential. But it's potential still. I don't think we've seen it completely, and I think this episode helped, and I'm liking it more. I want to see more. I don't know. What do you think?
The scene where he gets out of the car and onto the private jet, and he's here like, yeah, before Sokovia was destroyed, my family was, very wealthy, and I'm a baron. And he had the fur, and I was like, all right, that's what we're playing with now. Okay. I feel like there were a lot of like throwaway lines in this episode that's just like, we're trying to not be safe anymore, because I think Marvel was very safe when some of these characters like Sharon and Zemo were introduced. And now they're going to lean into their characters a little bit more. I mean, I know more about Zemo than I do about Sharon Carter, to be very honest. Right. And I don't know how I feel about this version of Sharon Carter, but I think they're going somewhere with her where they probably before wouldn't have. So I'm feeling it. I was very happy with it, but the thing that made me like just scream in this episode was when they hit Madripoor. Like,
Oh my God.
like I didn't even think Madripoor would look like that. In my wildest dreams, when I pictured it, I never pictured it the way they executed it in this episode.
No, exactly. And I have in my notes for today's show, like I had, that was one of the moment, that scene when they're walking on that bridge and they give us the first, like the skyline, right, of Madripoor. I'm like, yes, that is Madripoor. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that's wonderful. And then just them in Madripoor, I'm like, whoa, like Madripoor exists, right? It's an actual real place.
Did it not feel like Gotham from the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher film? Maybe that was just me. It's just like all the neon lights and the very bombastic architecture and like villains running amok everywhere you go. I was just like, I was so happy to see it.
So happy, so happy. And I'm happy to see them explore it more across the MCU, you know, like I hope it's not just a thing that we see in this show, that we can see it, because Madripoor, obviously in the comic books, especially as X-Men fans, we know it's a very important little island, and I think it looks wonderful. Like I was just so excited with how it looked.
Well, so Kevin Feige said that they were finally able to use it because of the Fox X-Men deal and those rights coming back to Marvel. So I really do hope that now we'll see other locations like Latveria come in and very casually like that. Dude, they totally said goodbye to Sokovia though. Did you notice that? They're like, yeah, Sokovia, after what happened, the land just got divided up and it's no longer around. I'm like, what? Like, okay.
And I like that at least Baron Simo kind of made comment about that, right? And even asked them at one point about, like, you know, did you guys ever go to the, you know, there's like a tribute statue or something there, and they're like, he's like, of course not. Why would you guys go? You guys forgot about Sokovia. And I, well, like, okay.
The people in this episode were fucking shady. Like when Sharon was like, hi, yeah, thanks. Remember me? Like I actually helped you guys out and then you forgot about me and the Avengers didn't take care of me and now I'm in Madripoor. Which, by the way, let's talk about sidebar, the Avengers not really taking care of anyone. Like they're not paying the team members, and then people who help the Avengers out, they don't even get an assistance at all. They don't even get amnesty. Someone like Sharon Carter doesn't even get amnesty. Like she has to go fucking to this island and like live this outlaw life.
No, I know. And I like that they're talking about that, right? Because it makes it be like real, right? I think they're showing us like, look, we never told you we were paying them, right? And so it's showing you how dirty and messy this universe is outside of what the movies make us believe, right? Like, oh, the heroes won the day, and then so then they get the praise. But obviously, and I'm dying to see what the Avengers movies are going to look like now, you know, after, you know, Stark is dead, and at least, you know, they weren't getting paid, but they had room and board, courtesy of Stark, right? Living in Avengers Tower, you know, although Tony didn't pay them, at least he covered their necessities in that kind of way.
They got Wanda some cable.
No, exactly. Yeah, they did. And so it's interesting to see how do they play this out down the road, right? You know, they got to think about that. They got to think about their retirement. Shit.
Yeah, no, you know what? I'm happy with the world building they've done. It's really, you know, I've said this before. I said this to you in our previous episode, and you know, my worry with these shows is that they can be skippable. And here's the only thing that I'm going to say about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I think has been great, and I loved WandaVision very much. My worry for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that this entire series, much like WandaVision, is going to culminate with him taking on the mantle of Captain America, which we did get at the end of Endgame. So my worry is, like, can you just watch Endgame and then pick up to the next movie that we're going to have Falcon as Captain America in, and you can trace the line? Or do we think there are going to be major repercussions from the series that will carry over?
Oof, that's a good question. I
I'm sorry,
think
that's my
it'll.
Oprah question. It's my Oprah question for you.
And I think it also depends on the fan, I guess, right? It depends on the kind of viewer that they're hitting at, right? That they're trying to get, the targeting. Because, for example, if you're like a completist, right, and you care about character development, you might not want to skip that, right? And you
Oh, I
will
agree.
want to watch the show to see how Sam gets to that point, right? That he becomes confident and wants to be Captain America. There might be people who don't need that, right? Like it depends on what the overall stories are going to be, moving forward. Because even right now with the MCU, like you don't really need to see all the movies to get into Infinity War and Endgame,
That's a very great point, by the way. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like, there's the Iron Man 2. Like, do you really need to watch that one or Iron
No
Man
one
3
needs to
to
see
watch?
Whiplash.
No, it's like, but right, if you're a completist and you care about these characters' individual lives,
And it fits
you'll do
into a
that.
much larger narrative. I think you just brought up the very valid point that negates what I kind of just said, which is in the best way possible that this all services a larger story. And if you're a completist, which I would wager 95% of the people watching these MCU movies, now TV shows, whether they're casual to diehard, they want to see the next chapter. And something like these shows, which I agree with you, it is a character driven series, which I love. I love my character driven. So that's why I think WandaVision was so great. And that's why I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been so great so far. But you're right. People are tuning in because it's the next chapter and they want to see how it fits in. So, wow, you proved me wrong on my show. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Welcome. Um, do you think a show like this could survive without major anchors from the Captain America movie franchise like Steve or Peggy? And the reason why I ask this question, why I think in this episode is particularly important to think about, is because his shadow is very much looming over this. And he's not dead. Last time we saw him, he was just passing the shield on. He may have died off screen, but I don't think they would have killed him, and they would not at least mention that he's dead on screen.
Yeah, no, I think they can, and I think, and honestly, I prefer it that way. I would really not want Steve Rogers cameo, kind of the same way with WandaVision. Because honestly, like, come on, Scarlet Witch, and Vision were the ones who were like on the side in the Avengers movies, right? It was a Tony Stark, Cap, and Thor movies, those ones, right? And the Black Widow even to more of a degree. And so I think giving them space to shine, to show, because they're great characters and they're great actors playing these characters. I don't think we need any of these big heavy hitters to rain on their parade. And even like you're saying, because Cap is present, like they're talking about Captain America in every episode, right? And we don't need to see him to have him help with the story.
Again, you have just made my opinion evolve now. You're absolutely right. No, yeah, Cap has had 10 years worth of movies telling his story. Now it really is time for Falcon and Winter Soldier and Sharon Carter to shine. And I do agree on that. And I did say early on, I didn't want someone like Chris Evans coming to the show to eclipse those narratives.
Yes.
But at the same time, I've just been like, they're talking about Cap so much. Like, where is he? Can you just say he's at a retirement home? He's at a secret location, or oh, he died. Again, I don't think he would have died off screen. I highly doubt that. But I wish they just wouldn't mention him so much because it is gearing your thoughts towards that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get. It's like the not knowing where Chris Evans, Steve Rogers is right now. I think that's the key thing, But it is about the Shield, So it's like they can't not talk about Captain America because it's all around that. It's all around what happened to the Shield. Sam gave it away. Now some other jerk has it. And so it's like we're gonna talk about Captain America in every single episode.
So, final question before we do our episode recap. I'm going to ask you to put on your clown makeup. There's a huge rumor that there is going to be a cameo. Oh, that's one of my figures who fell havoc. There's the huge rumor that there is going to be a cameo. Obviously, we had that with WandaVision. You kind of already answered it already, but I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to be our surprise cameo?
Damn, right? They've been rumoring that. I honestly don't know. Like, we had Don Cheadle in the first episode. Was that it?
Well, I feel like he was announced. He was announced.
Yes, you're right. Damn, a surprise cameo. That's a very, very good question. I think, you know, I guess to eat my own word, I think the surprise cameo might, well, actually, I have two answers. One, it could be, I think, Steve Rogers, old Steve Rogers, maybe.
Yeah.
Could be that. And I think that would work narratively. Like with the story, that could work. I don't want him to see Young come back and be like, you know what, I got the shield. Fuck you guys, I'm out. No, but the other potential cameo that we might get, I'm thinking somebody from Wakanda.
Oh yeah.
You know, especially with how episode 3 ended.
Yeah, like Shuri or something like that. You're absolutely right. Or Angela Bassett.
Right.
That actually would be.
Or I don't know, how about Okoye come in, kick some ass, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Okay, yeah. I'm skeptical of why Marvel or Disney does anything from a marketing publicity standpoint. So I think they dropped Black Widow today. I'm thinking it would be Florence Pugh or maybe ScarJo back from the dead. I don't think it'll be ScarJo for the record, but I think maybe someone from Black Widow. But again, I mean, I swore it was going to be Doctor Strange for WandaVision, and we got nothing. So, it's fun to speculate. And I think you guys were mentioning this. WandaVision, and I think to a lesser extent, a very lesser extent with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, people are tuning in and they're so engaged. And I think you said it's like watching Lost again. And I think that's what these MCU movies, or TV shows are replicating. They brought back Friday nights because I'm ordering pizza and I'm sitting down and I'm watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No, exactly. So that's so first of all, because I love that too, that they've chosen to do the weekly release, right, rather than doing a whole drop. Because yeah, it was fun to binge, but I like, especially I think in pandemic times, to get like an episode a week, can have like a reason for next week to like survive in this pandemic until then. And and it also allows us, like, for example, with this, right, with these shows, right, to talk about every episode and dissect it and really think about the theories. And it's been a while, I think, since shows have really done that, where you're like, wait, what's gonna happen? What's next? What does that mean?
Well, Disney totally gave the finger to Netflix, who invented the binge model and having, their own streaming service. Now they have their own streaming service and they're doing a different approach to it, and it's successful. And there have been articles about this where they're like, there's nothing wrong with the way TV shows are coming out now once a week. You just forgot what it was like to watch a television show weekly and let that plot marinate. You know what I mean? Like, and to the credit of the genre, The Boys was doing that first. They were doing it first before WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier. It keeps the conversation going with these shows and the publicity. It's free publicity.
Exactly. No, exactly. And I think with The Boys, I don't remember correctly if season 1 was all of it was dropped at the same time or not, but at least I know Amazon, what they do is that they drop 3 episodes at the beginning. So they give you a little bit of that about the binge worthiness. And then, then if you're hooked, then you'll watch every episode a week. So I kind of like that too. Obviously, it wouldn't work with shows like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which are 6 episodes apparently, right?
Yeah,
and so
6.
If they would have dropped 3, it's like, oh, well, we got 3 left. I don't want that, But yeah, exactly.
And DC, I mean, also to give credit to DC, because we don't hate DC here at all. With Titans, they did the weekly release, and with Doom Patrol and the Harley Quinn cartoon. For whatever reason, it didn't work with Titans. I don't know if maybe it's the way Titans was shot, where it just felt a little bit more like, I just want to go through this to see this larger, story play out. But for whatever reason, it works really well with WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the weekly schedule release.
Look, no hate for DC. I'm a DC fan. I love DC. But I think it's not about the release. I think it's just the content. It's not that good of a show. I think Titan season 1, I loved it. I thought it was a great show. Titan season 2, not so good. And I do think if I would have binged it, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But like, because after every episode when it ended, I was like, I don't care what happens next week. Like,
Yeah,
I
you're right.
just, other than like I see like they introduced wonderful characters with awesome what do you say, wardrobe, you know,
Hmm.
their look was dope as fuck. Nightwing looks incredible, and so I'm like, all right, I'm watching it to see that, you know. But story wise, it wasn't that, you know. So I don't know, but for example, Harley Quinn, I think I like their story. I do watch, but it's a different kind of show. Swamp Thing or Doom Patrol, I think worked. I think watching them every other week when they were coming out, like that kind of way.
I didn't watch Swamp Thing. Was it good? I mean,
Yes,
everyone
yes.
loved it. Everyone loved it.
No, I like that. I liked it a lot. It was surprisingly good.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, no, because you're not expecting it to be like that good, and then I think there's quite a bit of gore in it, which is surprising, and it's got this horror element to it. So I do recommend it. Watch it. It's a
We'll
fun
watch
show.
it. All right. All right. And speaking of fun shows, why don't we recap this week's episode of Falcon the Winter Soldier? And I think you're going to kick us off.
All right. Yes. So see, this is episode 3, right? And so we're starting off, and it starts with a commercial, right? That's just cool in and of itself. Which is from this ad for this. I forgot the name, but it's the organization that's supposed to help those people who are displaced, right? Because that's another thing I love about this show, right? That they're really diving in hard. They kind of did with WandaVision, but more so this about like, all right, people were half of Earth was blipped out of existence, and then they came back 5 years later. There's
Yeah.
real repercussions to that, right? And so because people are being displaced, and all that kind of stuff, and there's this ad for this organization that's trying to help.
I was confused by it. It said something like we're going to help you become patriots again. Like it was something like that. And I was like, so, and I was talking about this with my husband. So if you were blipped away and you came back, I guess that means your social security was deemed dead. So now you have to go through the process of reestablishing your citizenship and your patriotism to whatever country you're from. That was an interesting angle I did not expect.
Yeah, no, because imagine like once you're dead, your social security number is classified as dead, and then everything that's attached to that, your credit history, especially like in countries like in the US, the credits, like everything, it gets erased. I'm sure it'll be a bureaucratic hell to try to connect it all back. And now, if you think of different countries, it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
get that cool commercial.
exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvel, for that.
But I think it's trying, that was cool because we haven't seen the commercial since WandaVision, right? So it's like,
I know.
I wonder how is it going to relate to the bigger story, right? Because at least we're seeing from the story, right, with the Flag Smashers, that it seems like this organization isn't doing everything it's supposed to do, right? Because
Yeah, you're
the Flag
absolutely right.
Smashers are supposed to help those who have been displaced and all that kind of stuff. But then right after the ad, then we get our only time in the episode with John Walker, Captain America, but we know him as U.S. agent with Battlestar, infiltrating this spot in Munich where from the last episode we saw the Flag Smashers were in. Which is a cool scene, you know, with them interrogating them. What I liked about that scene, and we start to see that U.S. agent can be a little unhinged, right? Because we get this guy, one of the people who are harboring, como se diga, or whatever the word is, the group. He spit on his face, and he kind of let loose a little bit. I was thinking he was gonna punch him, but he held back. And so we just get that first starting scene about, you know, they're trying to find out like more information about this and where things go from there. And then that's when we move on to then Bucky and Sam, that they decided they have to go see Baron Zemo because they're his Hydra connection to the super soldier serum, and which is one of my favorite scenes of the episode where, you know, Bucky convinces Sam that I'm gonna go see Baron Zemo by myself. And then when that happens, first of all, that scene between Bucky and Baron Zemo just meeting, I love how Baron starts off giving him the code again.
I know.
Like just seeing Bucky's face and then Baron Zemo kind of going, I just wanted to see, you know? Like it's wonderful.
He's almost like we were talking about yin and yangs in AVX. I felt like these two were yin and yangs. You know?
Yeah. No, and I love because Baron Seam, I think we're seeing that he is a very smart person because at some point, he tells him after he gives him the numbers, I mean the code words to unlock Winter Soldier, he tells him, he looks at him in the eye and tells him, there's still a little bit of that in you, which
Yeah.
we know that had to fuck with Bucky's head.
Yeah.
He didn't move, he didn't do anything, but with the trauma that he's going through, I'm sure he's afraid. He's
Not
worried,
only
like,
the
fuck.
trauma, but he's trying to make amends. Like
Oh,
he's trying so hard. Can you imagine? You've been working. No, you cease to exist. You come back. You see a therapist. You're trying to work on all your baggage, and then some douchebag who was framing you from years prior is like, "Yeah, it's still there." Like, oh my god! Like he
oh
knew
my god.
He knew what to say to him.
Mm-hmm. Which then the only thing is that makes the next scene a little bit surprising. But I'm gonna be with MCU with how Bucky's all on board from the get go to like we have to free Baron Zemo to help us with all this. Which is, and I'm glad I like that they address kind of these very in your face moments because Sam does tell him, "How are you okay with this?" He framed you for killing
Yeah.
King T'Chaka. And there was a movie about this, right? Like. Like, how are you okay with this? And so that's the only thing I'm a little bit iffy about. But in the show, then that leads to a really fun scene when then Bucky meets up with Sam, which I'm thinking they're doing this very awesome buddy cop, like very Lethal Weapon kind
Oh
of
yeah.
relationship with obviously Bucky is the white unhinged kind of cop, and Sam's a little bit more by the books, right? Um, and explaining to him about like, well, how do we, what if we were to get him out? It would go something like this. And while we're seeing it, right, it's actually what happened with Zemo escaping their prison, and which is a very fun, action-packed scene,
Oh, it's so great.
which then leads to Zemo meeting with them, and it's just wonderful banter, which very classic MCU of awesome action and banter between them that leads to convincing Sam, right? To okay, we will do this. We will work together. For now, which is okay. I'm buying how Sam was convinced. I'm still not with it. How Bucky's completely on board. What do you think of that?
I think they just want to get to the bottom of everything. And it's funny. I actually thought Sam had more of like the larger issue. Zemo can get under Bucky's skin. And I think Bucky was prepared to deal with it on his own, but there's one thing to prepare and then another to have someone kind of come in and like really rock your world, as we were just saying, like, and throw him off course. So I don't know. Yeah, but like, sure, Zemo is apparently rich, so he's a necessity, as we will find out. Like he's a necessity. So I'm sure they're all like, okay, sure, give us some
Yeah.
classic cars.
Exactly. And that's what I love about also the scene, because it's like we love these actors, they're doing a good job, and I'm with it, and I'm rolling with it.
It's a layered performance. It's a
It's
layered
oh
performance.
yes,
It's such a
exactly.
wonderful layered performance.
And what I love about this, though, I did note this, that then when this scene basically ends, then the title comes on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So the show just started. It's 10 minutes in, and this is all we got already from the beginning. It's like I'm with it. I'm like, this is how the show starts. Okay. And then that's when it leads. Oh, but in that scene, when Zemo is picking stuff up from a car, he gets the mask, the classic purple Baron Zemo mask, which I was like, fuck yes, I want to see this.
So I'm a little. We'll talk about this, but I was a little confused. Like, was it just hanging in the back seat? Like, did I miss something? Like, he's here, like, oh, there it is. And like, he just puts it in his. Sure, okay.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I didn't miss a point there. I'm fine to roll with it.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's his stuff, right? It's old vehicles, and he left. He's like, that's where I left
Oh,
it.
there it is. Wonderful.
He's like, I was looking for you all of Civil War. Damn it, it was in this car. I forgot. It's like shit. Movies later,
Dude, that fucking read right now, that has to be one of the saltiest reads we've ever had on this. I was looking for it during Civil War. There it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just kind of thrown off by that. Like, did it belong?
Yeah.
Is it a family heirloom? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, let's
you know,
let's hope they explain it a little bit, right? Just a
I
little
know.
bit. But as a fan of the books and fan of Sarah Barancimo's OG look, I'm like, okay, I'm with
Yeah,
it.
I'm 100%. Just grab it. Just put it in your man purse and like, let's go.
And then now this is when it leads to the scene we were talking about. Well, no, first then they're on this jet plane. Where we find out, yeah, like he's like, I'm a baron, I got money, and which is cool, but I'm loving. And then with the fur fucking coat kind of thing that he's wearing, which Baron Simo is a larger than life kind of character, and I like that in the show now they're really starting to show these elements of him. And then they're on the plane, which they're heading then at that point to Madripoor. And then on the plane, they're just having this banter back and forth about, why they need to do this, why they need to go to Madripoor to get some information about the superhero serum. And it's a fun conversation. I think that some of the best things of that conversation was the jokes about Troublemaker by Marvin Gaye, that Sam was surprised that Bucky didn't like it. But Baron Simo had a very appropriate appreciation of the song and gets it. And Sam's like, he's out of line, but he's not wrong though. Like, shit. And it's like, that's the classic Marvel humor that I think, keeps us engaged and loving these characters, no?
I literally laughed out loud when Baron Zemo went to his butler, like, give it the smell test. And if it smells bad, give it to them. Like, I thought that was hysterical.
Love
And
it.
and Marvin Gaye is also a musician that comes up quite a bit in the MCU. He's, of course, in Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Right.
Ain't no mountain high enough.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I agree with you. I feel that Falcon and the Winter Soldier feels like an MCU movie where WandaVision had great budgets, great quality. That's not even, up for debate. It just did feel like its own thing, but this feels like the MCU we've known for a while.
Exactly. And I wonder if they end up doing that, right? That they do like one experiment, one classic, one experiment, one classic, right?
Yeah, they're getting they're getting their feet wet with
Mhm.
how they're going to be, telling these stories, and I'm fine with it. Play it safe for one, do something radical with the other. I'm okay.
Exactly. And I've been saying I trust Kevin Feige. Like, do whatever you want, man. I'm gonna
Do whatever you
purchase
want.
the shit out of that and watch it probably more than once. But then this leads to them epically going to Madripoor, and god damn, we see Madripoor. And even that first scene with them getting into the car and driving into Madripoor even reminded me a little bit of Black Panther, of that scene when it has the Weekend song in the back and they're infiltrating this seedy casino thing.
Oh,
It
yeah.
gave me vibes of that,
Oh,
which
you're absolutely
I
right.
love. And then when we're seeing that, so this is stuff actually I Googled. I would love to know if you knew this, because they're saying that they're gonna go speak to Selby, right? That Selby is this person that Baron Simo knows that will be able to have information about the superhero soldier serum, super soldier serum.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't know, is Selby important? Anything? So I Googled Selby, and apparently Selby is a character that came out like once in an issue of Excalibur, in 104 of Excalibur, that she was actually a part of the Mutant Liberation Front.
Oh, interesting.
So,
I didn't pick up on that. Hang on.
no, just because I always hear, when I hear them mentioning a name
Oh, yeah.
quite a bit, I'm like, is this important? And for some reason, especially because, which we'll talk about soon, is then she gets killed.
Yeah.
she's done. But it made me wonder, and then Googling that is like, oh, okay,
I see what you're doing there. Yeah. I'm seeing Selby here. I don't know. I thought the spelling was different because I watched it with the subtitles. But yeah, I mean, even when they gave Falcon the moniker, like the fake name, that's a character from the comics. So I'm right there with you. Like we're already trained as MCU stands to know when they say something like there's some, like, here's a secret identity. Oh, but who is that really? So
Exactly.
absolutely.
And I do feel like they're leaning more and more into some of this X-Men heavy lore, like
Oh.
with WandaVision, we saw them starting to tell us a little bit more, like hinting things that for us gets us excited that didn't pan out to anything. But obviously, Madripoor, I think, is the biggest one, which, I was just to confirm, like at Google, like it debuted in New Mutants number 32, so come on, and Wolverine had a wonderful stint in fucking Madripoor as Patch, right?
Patch.
With that, like I wonder, like, come on, they see you heal, like, why are you wearing an eye patch? Like, come on, like, you're not fooling anybody. but like, that's, I don't know. So that's why I had to Google that. This is the one moment from this show that I'm like, all right, let me put in my aluminum hat and kind of like start,
because there was so much that they threw in there. Yeah.
Yep. But like, as you were saying, in that scene when they're walking in, they have to go into these different characters, right? Baron Zemo's Barry Baron Zemo. Winter Soldier's supposed to be Winter Soldier, right? And they give Sam the Smiling Tiger persona, right? Also, which in terms of the race and those kinds of issues that they're addressing, I really loved this one line that, because Sam's like, why do I look like a pimp? And then Baron Zemo tells him only an American would think that a black man with a fashion-forward wearing suit would be a pimp.
That was like, a beautiful line.
I was like, bravo.
Clap back right there. Wait, and you know what else from that scene that I love too is that he looks at the ID and goes, oh, you know what? I do look like him. And they were very smart to do that, to say that, because some people would have just been like, whoa, wait, that's a problematic statement to be like, oh, let me get this person of color who looks like this other person of color. It had to come from Sam. And Sam was like, yeah, I actually do look like him. And I thought that was very smart writing that they tackled that.
Exactly. That's a very good point, because I was wondering that if they were going to go with just because I'm black, like I'll be this character, but like, exactly. I'm glad to see Sam saying, oh yeah, okay. Look,
because that's historically a horrible, problematic thing, and that horrible expression that people say. And I'm glad that they tackled it, and it came from Sam proper.
Yes, exactly. So Marvel's doing a good job.
Thank you, Marvel. Thank you, Marvel.
Right. And so as they're doing this, another one little other X-Men little nod, Easter egg, right? Is as soon as they're walking in, right? They're in Madripoor, they're walking through this awesome street with bars and shit. We see on the side a bar called the Princess Bar. Yes. It's like, wait, what now? And so for those listeners out there, the Princess Bar was a bar that Wolverine, Patch specifically, right? Wolverine loved that when during his time in Madripoor, and it was involved in those stories, which I haven't read actually completely, but it's like, are you kidding me? Like that's for us.
They fucking went there. I mean, the amount of X-Men references we have gotten in a few months, with Quicksilver dressed up as the Brotherhood Quicksilver, with Madripoor, with the Princess Bar. Like, look, I'm not expecting Hugh Jackman to be like the busboy with like an eye patch. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there he is. But they went there, and I'm glad they did. They're using these locations, and I think that's Kevin Feige giving us a little wink to those who know.
Mm-hmm. No, and I love that's good fan service, right? Because obviously, I don't think it's gonna matter for the story, like, it's not gonna do it, but they're doing it because they know, like, they know that it could have
been any bar. They chose the Princess Bar. Any bar.
Oh my god, so that's awesome. And then we get this awesome scene that follows with them walking into the bar, playing their part. We're trying to get in touch with Selby to see her. And what I love about this whole scene, right, is that Sam is a terrible actor. Like, I love that, like, Winter Soldier, he's very much in his role as Winter Soldier. Baron Zemo was himself, right? But then Sam is just not pulling it off as the Smiling Tiger. And especially this really funny scene of just him having to drink this snake thing.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
I didn't... Shit.
What was that?
I don't even know. I didn't have time to Google it, but first of all, my face would crack too, because that's fucking disgusting. Yeah. And I kept thinking, like, the reaction I was having as an audience member, I'm like, Sam, you just have to go with it. He's not going to drink, Smiling Tiger is not going to drink something poisonous, so you just have to do it. But then I was like, shit, can you imagine if you down something like that and your knee-jerk reactions to like vomit? Like, I thought he was going to vomit or something like that. But it was they went there. Madripoor felt like a character. Just like
Mm-hmm.
how like in Sex and the City, you know, New York is like the fifth character on that show. Madripoor was a character in this episode. I walked away thinking like that place is fucked up.
No, exactly. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like I really do hope that they visit Madripoor more, right? It kind of like along the same lines when they introduced us to Wakanda. And it's like, fuck, like Wakanda's real, and I want to know more about this, and I want to visit. With Madripoor, I get that feel too. It's like, no, Madripoor's fucking dope. Like this is a real place.
Yeah.
Like I want to see what shit happens here, you know?
When shit is going down.
Yeah. And then from this scene, now we move forward with what I loved with, you know, Baron Zemo's not welcome here, and then it leads to him telling the Winter Soldier like attack, and Bucky has to pretend, which he didn't, you know, he did it easily and started to whoop ass and then just start beating up a bunch of the people there who were getting in the way, which was a fun action scene, but obviously then leads to them getting Selby's attention, right?
Yeah.
So all of that was fun. Just seeing Sam struggling with like not wanting to interact, not being involved, Winter Soldier letting loose without really killing people, but like letting loose. I just love the dynamic across the three of them and how that leads to then meeting Selby.
Yeah.
And as they're walking right to go see Selby, I thought it was random. You know, as they're walking in, there's this random scene with music by Edith Piaf. She's a French.
Oh, I know.
Singer.
I saw her. They did an off like I was going to say off Broadway. There was a play in Miami about her life.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So I felt that was random. Like also like, and then this is obviously the comic book like paranoid person I am. It's like I immediately like told Google, listen to the song. What is this? Does it mean anything? I don't think it does. I don't know. It's called
No, I didn't. Yeah.
The Little Man is called the song that they're playing, but
maybe it's about Baron Zemo and his ego.
probably. But then it leads to this discussion with Selby about like, you know, the idea is like she knows, asking her about where's the super soldier serum being developed, and she knows, she gives that information. The whole selling point is that Baron Zemo is going to give her the Winter Soldier, which is cool. You know, he's like, I'll give you obviously the code to unlock him and use him. It's like that was kind of fun to watch. Like, oh shit. Yeah. And then it leads to Sam fucking up because he doesn't know how to put his phone on silent.
Oh no,
right?
This scene was so good.
Yeah, like come on, even like his phone's vibrating as hell. Like, and even it's like loud vibrating too. It's like, really shit. Like, how are you all hearing this? And then it ends up being his sister calling. Which leads to this awesome scene of him trying to stay in character. And as I've said, you know, he's not a good actor. Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie is a wonderful actor.
He's so wonderful. He can balance so much. I mean, really, he chewed the scene.
Yes. And so with that back and forth, Selby gets suspicious, asks him to, you know, let's listen to this on you know, speakerphone, and then is talking to his sister, and then his sister eventually says his name, which then leads to all hell breaking loose. You know, Selby's like, kill them. She gets killed immediately. And then they're able to escape. They walk out, which for me gave me, what the next scene was, it gave me very John Wick kind of a feel, because as soon as Selby was killed, immediately a bounty went out on their head.
It was like immediate. Like all the phones just started blowing up.
Right.
It was great.
Right. And so that's my part, right? That was the first 25 minutes of the show.
I can't believe it, man. Like, yeah, no. And so immediately picking up from there, you know, the bounty is out on them. It's blowing up every like bounty hunter's like phone. And like they're walking through the streets and some chick just starts going pew, pew, pew to them, you know, which is hysterical. And then like fucking out of the blue, Sharon Carter like emerges from the shadows and she like takes off her hoodie and she's here like, yo, like there is a bounty on all of you. And also, fuck you. Fuck both of you, because I helped you out during Civil War. I got Cap's shield. I got Falcon's wings. So you can help this asshole who framed you. And now my life is shit. I did not get blipped away. I had to stay here. She doesn't say she didn't get blipped away, but I'm assuming she didn't get blipped away. She's here like, my own father doesn't know where I'm at. It was
I,
horrible.
I love that scene because again, it's adding this real. It's making me feel that the other movies matter, right? That what
Mm-hmm.
happened to those movies are real things to real people. It is just, and I love how she didn't hold back exactly as soon as she sees them. She's like, oh, and like lets them know.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I'm so sorry. And Falcon's like, hey, I was on the run. And she slaps him down. She goes, was and is are two very different things. I was like,
That was dope.
yeah, man. So she's here like, all right, you guys can come back to my place. And they like go on in her, was it a Mercedes Benz that she got into? Whatever car she got into. And they're going back to her lair. And like the second she walks into her headquarters, she's like, what's up to her bodyguards? Which was brilliant, which was so wonderful. And she's here like, yeah, I'm selling stolen art. And they're like, this isn't stolen. And they're like, oh no, this is like the real deal. Like the shit you see in museums is fake. Like Sharon's got the real stuff. And she talks about, if she was going to be a hustler, she wants to live that hustler existence. So, kudos to her. She makes the boys change into like respectable looks there. And their mission now is to go track down the scientist, which I'm forgetting his name. What was his name? Nigel, Dr. Nigel, who is in like a crate at a Madripoor dock. And the scene was played out pretty interesting because she leads the three boys, Zemo, Falcon, and Bucky, to that specific crate. And she's like, I'm going to go watch your back. And then like leaves. I'm like, is Sharon double crossing them?
I know, right? I thought the same thing. It made me feel a little bit sketchy about like, wait, what you're because it seems she was walking too far away. It's like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, like, is she really upset that she didn't get that Avengers protection or protection plan? That, I don't know. It was played on a very curious way, but of course, they find that actually there's a hidden wall within the crate. And hang on, I'm sorry, let me just mute my phone. They find a hidden crate, they find a hidden room within the crate. And they go in and they find Dr. Nigel. And we find out that he's been harvesting Isaiah Bradley's blood to make the budget version of a super soldier serum, and that Carly stole it. And Carly's, of course, our Flag Smasher leader who's been on the run. And it's a really interesting scene because he talks about, and I'm curious for your input as someone who is a man of science. He was here like, I started my research and then I blipped away. And then I came back 5 years later and I found out that my research had been defunded and now I had to start it up again.
No, I love that comment because it felt also real, right? That it seemed that obviously, probably at the time, 5 years before all that, before the blip, probably the research that he was doing was probably not the most ethical. Well, no, it wasn't ethical at all, because he knows that the specimens were coming from Isaiah Bradley, probably against his will, but he was funded to do it, right? And then come back 5 years later, the world changed a lot, right? So maybe at that point they decided, no, we don't want to do this fucked up shit. Like, I don't know what happened, but it's him as a man of science. He's like, well, I really like this work. I want to keep doing it. And he found people to fund him to do it, And as a scientist, I go where the money's at.
Yeah, it was such a stark contrast to something like what we have in the X-Men books right now, where they're in Sword, they talk about mutant science being in perpetuity because now you can age, resurrect yourself, and continue your work. So your study could go on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I was shocked that this guy was like, I blipped away and I came back and everything was like done. So, ya tu sabes. Zemo is like feeling under the desk because he is a shady fucker and he grabs a gun. Meanwhile, outside, Sharon is taking on every single bounty hunter in Madripoor that has spotted them and is coming after them. And And that's when you realize, oh, Sharon was just getting them to where they needed to be. She is the muscle for this team, and she is taking on all these bounty hunters. And yo, man, like I thought, like I was like, Sharon Carter, you are savage as fuck. Like this one dude starts shooting at her, and she uses the other dude as a shield. I know that's a classic like trope with it, but to see Sharon Carter do that, I was like, yes, I'm here for it.
And and that is one thing that I've been loving about this show a lot. That we talked about this in our Legion on Zoom episode when we the recent one about these last two episodes of Winter Soldier and Falcon. That I do think this is the first time we've seen Marvel really go more violent, no? And they're actually killing people. Like they really didn't do that before. And people died that you would think it was like off screen, not. But now we're seeing it firsthand. Like even from the first episode, like Falcon is straight up killing people. Like he's kicking them off of a helicopter, slamming them against the boulder and falling to their death, And now in this scene, like Sharon is straight up killing people. She's using them as shields. She's shooting at them, and I don't think we've really seen it to that level in the Marvel movies. And I love that, and which I hope it means that they're willing to go a little bit more dark, make an R-rated movie. Right? They got the rights of Deadpool. Like let's keep it because come on, like this is a spy. Secret agent, super soldier type of thing. You're gonna have people die. You can't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's actually when I first started seeing the first episode, I was like, Falcon just straight up killed that guy. You know what I mean? Like they weren't afraid to go there, and then they don't talk about it. Right. Here's where I'm going to be Team DC on this. Like fucking Superman snaps someone's neck, and like all of fandom is in an uproar. Like, what about Metropolis? Everything. And like, here are these characters like killing everyone, and it's fine. Like I personally don't care either way. But I think it's interesting that Marvel can get away with it in a very subtle way, and no one really questions it. But
I think the counterpoint is that the difference is that because Sam Wilson, nobody really cares, and in the MCU, and I think in the comic books too, because in the MCU, I think he was part of Shield or the Army at some point, and Winter Soldier, we know he's a fucking Hydra, used to be a Hydra agent, and so we expect that they did that. That's same thing with Black Widow and same thing with Hawkeye. But the issue comes with characters like Superman or Batman, who their whole thing is not to kill, So if we were to see Steve Rogers, Chris Evans kill somebody straight up, I do think at that point the fans would have had the same uproar as they did for the DC movies. Because come on, Zack Snyder went like completely didn't give a fuck, like just destroyed, fucking Metropolis. Like that's how Batman vs Superman even starts, with Batman freaking out about how everybody's dying around him, and Superman doesn't care.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely 100% right. So, we find out that Carly has the super soldier serum. Thank you. And, then fucking Zemo like shoots Dr. Nigel, and that's it. Sharon comes in, she's here like, that's it. Like, I can't hold off these bounty hunters anymore. They torch the lab, and they start to flee. And Sharon is like, you know what, guys, I'm actually going to stay here. And Falcon's like, I'm going to try to get you that part. And she's like, thanks. And then she just walks away, and she goes to a car where she has a driver. I mean, I was kind of thrown off by it. I knew she was being duplicitous. I knew for a fact that there was something else going on with Sharon. But then she gets in the back seat of the car, and, her driver's like, yeah, let's go reconvene. And I don't know, like, is she supposed to be the big bad for the series?
No.
You don't think she may be power broker?
Oh my God. No. You just blew my mind. I don't think so, though. That would be dope.
And by the way, that wasn't my immediate reaction. I just saw like on Twitter and comments and other videos where they were like, oh, Sharon is power broker. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Oh my God, that would be that. I'd even actually give me a second to
Sorry.
process this. And
Wait.
no, but for me, because I wasn't that surprised. Actually, even with your comment earlier about like that she wasn't blipped out of existence. And I think for me it made sense because one, she lives in Hightown. They made that known, right? They went to Lowtown and then they went to Hightown. For those of
You're
you
right.
who don't know Madripoor, that's a division, and Hightown is what it sounds like. That's where all the rich people live. And if you're reading the current amazing Krakoa run, right, the Dawn of X, Reign of X
Hmm.
run, right, which is led Hightown is like the fucking little Hellfire Club kids
Oh my god.
running it with Madame Zhao from the Daredevil series.
Yeah.
Actually, she's involved,
Yeah.
and she lives in Hightown. And as we see when she shows up, like you said, she has guards, she has money, right? And
Okay.
she's selling all this art, and so I'm assuming after 5 years living on the run and living in Madripoor, she's amassed wealth. And I didn't find it surprising that she told her driver and bodyguard, like, I'm gonna go do this thing. Just be ready to pick me up about an hour. It'll take me, like,
Okay. I
and
just
that's what I thought.
it was such a weird beat in the story because they were established that she's wealthy and she's living this high life, which by the way, in the back of my head, I kind of knew, but you just connected it for me so beautifully with that explanation. But it felt like a weird beat. It feels like she is pulling much larger strings. And I just think of it from a narrative perspective. If Power Broker is watching, who is Power Broker? And what's going on, and that's me being a clown and listening to other clowns and feasting off of that. But so it ends with
But
them. Oh, go, I'm sorry.
no, but I love that, right? Because I think it still could work, right? That she is Power Broker, which would be an interesting twist to her. And I think it's also because my only thing is right now Power Broker is pissed off as from what we've seen, right, about like that the super soldier serum has been stolen. Oh, actually, which I wanted to ask you. So before we move on, it's like, so there was that one scene though, which tell me how this fits into the power broker theory, that when she brought them to her apartment
Hmm.
and then forced them all to change, I really
Take
love
them
the
partying.
dialogue.
Take them partying.
Yeah. And I love the dialogue between them where Sharon really starts to tell us, oh, actually, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you might be right.
I
That
usually am.
that she's salty, right, about everything that's happened, and she's like giving crap to Sam about like deep down, this who superhero shit is bullshit, that it's
Yeah.
not true. And Baron responds quickly, like, oh, he knows that it is not that deep down. He gets it that it's bullshit. And Bucky kind of says a comment, and then Sharon's like, oh, shut up. You were like all about that life, before this, you were Captain America's sidekick, and so you can tell that Sharon hates superheroes, right? And she
Yeah.
hates the idea of all of this stuff. And that's her motivations, with kind of links into Sparancimo's. So how does that connect or not to the idea of her being Power Broker?
Yeah, no. Well, so first of all, I think we have a misdirect with Power Broker. We know that Zemo hasn't met Power Broker, right? I think that was
Right.
established in the episode. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. They were using the he him pronouns for Power Broker.
Yes, they
So
were.
I
Yeah.
think maybe thematically it's a misdirect. My thing with Sharon in those
Ooh.
specific scenes, though, there was like some information there, like especially with Falcon receiving the shield. How did she know that if she's off the grid in Madripoor and she's not connected? So she's obviously sourcing information. Yeah, see, thank you. And no one questions that
Blown away.
because
Okay.
we know that's not public information. We know, well, maybe,
Well, but the only
but
thing is she
it,
was a shield agent, right? So she's not just a random person, right? She's
no, you're
she's the
right.
daughter of the founder of Shield, right? So you would think information like that, right? Also about, because she said, well, Sharon's dead by that point. I mean, Peggy's dead by that point, right?
Yeah,
Because she said her father doesn't know where I am,
yeah.
and her mother Peggy
No, no,
died.
no. Peggy's her aunt, her great aunt.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. Well, the I don't know. I feel like she's got fucking Shield
No, look,
royalty family that could
I
give her
got
that
you.
information.
But she could be using that to her advantage as power broker.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But then here's the thing, though. But also, like what I just said, it's kind of negated by the fact that like Sam publicly relinquished the shield to the Smithsonian.
There you
But
go.
but then that would also imply, though, that the public knows that Falcon was supposed to be the next Captain America, and then the U.S. government gave it to a white guy. So I don't know why there wouldn't be more of an outrage then. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I feel Sharon was being fishy in this episode. That's all I'm
I
saying.
like it. I like
That's
it.
it. So whether she just turns out to have her own agenda on the side or something, like I just got like, oh, is she gonna be unveiled? And do we finally have our answer as to who Power Broker is? Because I thought like up until that point, I was like, oh, it was the bartender. It was the bartender. It was the bartender. That's who Power Broker is right there, you know. But I don't think we're gonna get like a random character, you know, who's gonna be like, I'm Power Broker. I think it's gonna be someone we've already seen. If it's a good mystery.
My only thing about with Sharon, which is exactly, it's a good mystery, and I'm like, this is why we love the weeklies, right? Rather than freaking binge series. My only thing about the Power Broker with Sharon being him, her, that Sharon made it pretty obvious that she doesn't like superheroes. But the Power Broker is all about it because the Power Broker is funding the research to make more super soldiers, right? So then why would Sharon, unless she lied to them about it, right? Because like, why would she be?
No, I see what you're saying. I don't know. You know, we'll see where it ends up. But, you know, I think the Flag Smashers, first of all, I had never heard of them until this very series. You know, I'm not going to be like, yeah, the Flag Smasher or Flag Smasher was a character. I'm still like unsure of their structure and everything. So, you know, Carly, you know, invades those people who are placing people during the blip, ties them up, and then blows up their facility because they had 6 months worth of supplies. I don't know why she's so evil. Great, you know, have at it. You know what? Maybe real estate was cheaper, you know, after the blip, and now like people need a place to live, so real estate's going up. I don't know why she's so angry. I can't wait to really see those motives fleshed out. But we do end the episode with, I was going to say Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, with Sam and Winter Soldier going to Latvia. I don't know. Latvia. And Sebastian Stan being like, wait, I recognize this tech. And, you know, he goes away from the group and he follows like all these little techs that have been like, I guess, plaguing them. Like he's noticed that someone's following them, and he traces them back to Ayo from the Dora Milaje. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah. You did.
The Dora Milaje, and Ayo's like, I want Zemo because, of course, everything that happened in Civil War and scene right there. And
that blew me away because even in that moment when he's picking up, because like when I saw he's picking up those little beads, which are those famous Wakandan beads that like we saw in the Black Panther movie, where like it gives you tech and that kind of stuff. Is like
you picked it up immediately once you saw it. I didn't. I forgot about it.
Well, I was honestly we had recorded our Legion on Zoom episode for this week, and I hadn't finished the episode, but Chess spoiled that for me. And so for me, when I saw it, it was like, okay, I knew what it was, you know. I didn't pick it up. I might have, I don't know, but you know, but so it's like that's fucking dope. Like the little subtle details like that, like Jesus.
Well, and here's the thing. This is why I think that ending worked so well. It was a genuine surprise. It was completely left field. It was not leaked at all. Madripoor had been leaked for a while. I mean, people were saying Madripoor was going to show up. Princess Bar was not in it. And Ayo being in it, I was just like, fuck, yeah. And you know shit gets real when Wakanda is involved, because presumably they're one of the wealthiest nations in the MCU, you know, in this fictional version of our world. So how is it going to play? Are we going to get, as we were just saying, are we going to get Shuri? Are we going to get Angela Bassett, you know, her queen? I'm curious to see where it's going. I would love it. Obviously, it's not going to happen if we got T'Challa himself. And that makes a sting of Chadwick and his passing so much,
Yeah.
more harder to cope with, because like he should be the leader of what's happening in the MCU. He is. I'm sad he's not there.
Yo, if they imagine if they actually film scenes with him before he passed for the show and nothing's been revealed so far, that it would be mind blowing. But I
would.
really find that hard to
I
believe, right?
I'm curious how they would do that. I agree with you. I would love it if they did that, but I'm curious, would they use the footage still? Like, I don't know what the situation is with something like that, or like
Right.
what's appropriate, because I don't work in
Right.
the
Right.
entertainment industry. But yeah, man, that ending though, like I was just like, fuck yeah, I'm ready to party. Like, give me the fucking next episode.
Yo, my God, yes, I want to, and this is goes back to what I've been saying, that I love the world building, because even like a comment, for example, I haven't seen Winter Soldier in a long time. I don't remember, oh no, Civil War. I don't remember Civil War much of the details, but they mention it in the show, right? About like, look, dude, like Baron Zemo framed you for killing King T'Chaka. You don't think Wakanda's gonna care? And it's like, that makes it real, right? It makes it like, yeah, in a real setting, real world, there would be consequences on that when people find out Baron Zemo's out, right? Which makes narrative sense that in this world, fucking Wakanda would get involved immediately, right? So it's like, yes, so then I don't know what's gonna happen with the rest of the story now that Wakanda is gonna be involved.
Yeah, no, and it's an organic involvement, exactly how you just said. Like they want Baron Zemo's head. Like he left fucking prison, and now like no, he's gonna pay for his crimes. And yeah, I love that AO. I got more like Secret Service vibes than actual Wakanda army, but it's
Yeah.
fine. Like, she is the X Force. She is the lone woman X Force of Wakanda. Like she's taking care of the shit no one wants to deal with on the political front. She's doing the dirty work. And
Yep.
that involves killing this fucker who killed their
Yeah.
king. So, yeah, I thought it was a great episode. I'm happy. I have nothing negative to say. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, I have nothing to complain about. And I will love that, besides Ao, I'd love to see her kick ass, but I would love to see Okoye, and that might be the guest,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
you're right.
a decent, Dinah Guida. I don't remember. I'm probably butchering her
I
name.
butcher everyone's name. Don't worry about
But
it.
like, come on, Walking Dead fame,
Yeah.
and The Walking Dead is ending, and I stopped watching The Walking Dead, so I don't even know if she's still in it or not. And so it's like, that would be so cool to see her come through and kick ass as well. So that would just be exciting. I have nothing, like, this show is just great. It's fun. It's entertaining.
Anything else you want to say?
I do just want to add
go.
about Flag Smasher, because just by fucking happenstance, or because of my comic book geekness, because I happen to know a little bit about Flag Smasher just because I've read.
We have the expert on.
a little bit.
I'm like, I don't know anything. You're like, bitch, hold my beer.
Because he was actually a villain in Deadpool, in especially, I think it was Jerry Dugan's run. Or it was Jerry Dugan's run that had Deadpool, because I'm a Deadpool fan. I read most of his books, except the newest ones. I haven't gone into those. And Flag Smasher was there, and he's kind of like a throwaway villain. I think that's why MCU is making Flag Smasher like an idea, right? There's several people who are Flag Smashers, but this one person, Carly, right, who's the main one, because nobody cares. Exactly, nobody cares who Flag Smasher was, but like, the fun thing, and then he was running a group called Ultimatum, and so they're kind of hinting like Carly's running a group, and the Flag Smasher character in the comic books was Carl Morgenthau, and she's Carly Morgenthau. So it's still like connecting it to some degree, and already from what I've read, from at least in Deadpool, Carly's a much more badass Flag Smasher than the one we have in the comic books.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with her in the comic books. I've seen the Easter eggs and the images they've laid out for her, and especially in the comics. But yeah, it would be cool if this kind of ties into like Deadpool. Like, if we get Ryan Reynolds, that's going to be the surprise cameo. It's going to be Ryan Reynolds right there. I doubt it. I absolutely doubt it. But yeah, I think one of the best things about being an MCU fan, if you're just following like the MCU, there's such a they draw from the source material in a very real and interesting way, and I'm here for it. Let's see what they do, and even as a fan, a 30 plus year old fan, like I don't know who Carly is, and I'm just learning her. I'm learning about her with the rest of the world. So I'm proud of Marvel. I love what they're doing, and this was a great episode.
Yes. I love it. I can't wait for next week to see what happens. I'm just a little bit bummed that really is it 6 episodes. I guess because
But they're
of
longer.
exactly. They're long episodes with a lot of effects. There's a lot of action. I'm like, yo, that's expensive probably to do all that for a TV show. Like, okay.
They're longer than WandaVision, which were like 25, 30-minute episodes. And you're like, I need more from this right now. But I think I feel satisfied when I walk away from an episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Whereas with WandaVision, I was like it cuts to her fucking eyes. And I'm like, I don't want to see your fucking eyes, Wanda. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, I'm kind of like, okay, let me process that plot. But yeah, I am kind of disappointed too now that we're talking about it out loud. Like maybe like 8 episodes. 8 seems like a good number. I don't know. But
I think we'll be able to say that more confidently when we see it ends. And if it's a satisfying ending, then I'll be okay, fine. 6 episodes was good, but we'll see. But so far, I am happy. These 3 episodes have been fun, entertaining, character developing, world building. I'm with it.
Same. I'm looking forward to the future, and let's see what they're going to give us for the next 3 episodes.
Yes.
Miguel, where can the people listening at home find you?
Yes, well, you can follow us first of all on social media. Instagram, we're more active at Legion on Zoom, but we're on Twitter and Facebook as well. And then you can follow our podcast wherever you get podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Captivate, anything, Stitcher. Just Legion on Zoom. And you can follow us on YouTube as well. We have our, you can see our lovely faces, and we add art about everything we talk about. If you can see it, we're talking about comic books, you'll see a picture of everything we're talking about. So you can follow us on YouTube.
And you guys, I mean, you're one of my favorite podcasts. Like you guys kill it every episode. So listeners, make sure to follow them at Legion on Zoom.
Thank you.
All right. I am the Uncanny Dayspring signing off. Oh, man. Thank you so much. That was great.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.